But let's introduce each other. I'm Katie Shasky, sui generis regenerate on all my social medias. And this is Michael Schultz. He's Mutual
I'm
Reception Astrology.
for sure. My internet connection is unstable, so this doesn't come through perfectly. I'm sorry.
None
I
of
had to
this is
switch
going to
from the
come through
warehouse. I'm
perfectly.
not. I changed my job this week. I was working in a warehouse with my fam out here in North Carolina, and they had to really kind of shut down the warehouse. Business is slowed down a little bit for a lot of retail in the area for some reason.
Mm,
Maybe it has to do with energy prices and the sweet spot of between the upper class and the lower class, because right now that's what's getting squeezed in the US.
hmm
So high end furniture is doing pretty good, and lower end furniture is doing pretty good, but middle end furniture not as good. But
hmm.
we hope that it all picks up and it gets better. But anyway, out
Uh,
of a job in a warehouse with better internet and into a new job in a new warehouse, and also in the midst of a bit of a forest fire, on the socials.
Michael.
So yeah,
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
real.
what are you going to do? Sometimes you make a song on Suno and you make a little video with it, and you say something about harpies and heat, and it causes a kerfuffle. And I didn't think that it would get out as much as it did, but it did. So that's how it went. So now I've got the ISR on, or otherwise known as the UAC, on me, and we're gonna see what happens over the course of the next couple months. For those of you that don't know, um, Stephen Forrest, he was with Ricky Williams, former NFL player. And he was doing an interview. They've been friends for 10 years. They were trying to do shadow work. They were trying to talk about one of the stickiest conversations that you can have in the US. They were trying to have an unguarded conversation about race. And I'm pretty sure Stephen Forrest will probably not do that again on video, is my guess, based on the pushback.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I
I would
mean,
guess. I would guess he might. He might. It would be brave of him to do that, but I mean, the consequences were pretty heavy. He said the N word, but not the N word, like the actual word. And he talked a little bit about how he was taught when he was growing up what the KKK actually was, which, wasn't necessarily in tune with what it is, and what it was. But they were trying to delve into their own history. And I saw, you know, the thing explode, and I wasn't really caring that much. I like Stephen Forrest. I know some people that like Stephen Forrest a lot. I wasn't caring that much, but then I saw that the UAC and all these organizations were putting out, like, basically kind of, you know, he became the scapegoat for all of the problems. And it
yeah.
made me feel a certain kind of way. And I did a reactive video, and he ended up sharing it. So now, more people know who Mutual Reception Astrology is. And I get to deal with whatever kind of fallout or benefit that happens from that. So
Which is
yeah,
funny because, the we the we here in me versus we is the one causing, or getting involved in a kerfuffle. I wouldn't say causing. You're definitely getting involved in being known in it,
yep,
which is great for the internet because it's hard to get attention, and you definitely got people's attention right now. So, just on a marketing level, I've been studying marketing for a really long time, so I think about it in that term. But it's a sensitive subject, so like I want to lay it out on in the me terms.
yeah,
um, I don't I don't use that word, so I feel like you know I feel two ways, and because I'm a double Gemini, I'm going to do my best to convey my emotions two types of ways and explain some of my like position my experiences a little bit from growing up and my exposure to the culture and my gratitude. So, bouncing around here. The I feel like you can have that conversation unguarded and still not use that word.
It's true.
So that was a poor choice in the moment, and tact does matter. So
Absolutely.
I've never seen Forrest's chart, but I would imagine that he has something in his Mercury or an aspect that does an off the cuff comment every now and then and doesn't think
Yeah.
things through. I don't know though.
Well, I have a
Um,
Capricorn sun, he has an Aries moon, so I think in the heat
oh,
of the moment, like,
he's
so,
a cardinal, all cardinal,
he's
yeah,
pretty cardinal. I think he's got Scorpio rising. Um, from what I've, heard of him, he's very anti-guru. He doesn't want people putting the guru label on him, so he tends to,
fair.
like, project himself a little bit more
I mean,
rough
let's face
around the
it,
edges.
Tony Robbins is a really
Mm,
good example of somebody who pretty much does the same thing. He pisses people off on purpose while
mhm,
he's trying to help them because it breaks up their pattern enough to get the message inside their shell, which is pattern disruption, the whole point. So I'm not saying that was Forrest's tactic, but many other people up front with an audience, a platform, will use that as a thing. But I don't think
mhm,
Forrest was even judging by I've seen some clips, but I've been
yeah,
unsure if it's from the incendiary episode. Or, but his energy in general from the clips that I've seen, he's very a mild dude, very mild dude, mannered.
yes, uh,
So it's like
yes,
in comparison to another bald astrologer that I used to go follow and go see in Washington when I lived up there, Rick Levine is an Aries with Gemini rising as well, but he's got a Cancer moon, so he's got a lot of cardinal with a little bit of that mercurial, but he's a little more feisty up
mhm,
front, and you can see that he's sparky. But Forrest doesn't have that. He's so chill feeling, like very meek feeling. So I don't know. But I'm sure he's got a little pizzazz, a little something, but I don't know the man, and I didn't see the whole podcast, and I fully intend to at some point. But my whole focus on wanting to have this conversation and dialogue, and I also want to sit here and invite other people who are listening in, or now, maybe we'll get somebody walking in the comments right now because we're live, or later in the comments. But I'd like to invite you, if we say something wrong, to go ahead and point it out, but we're gonna do our best to have this conversation with the highest good in mind while keeping the integrity of shit posters and keeping it real in terms of, you know, we know we're not gonna say the 100% the right thing, but we're not trying to fuck it up either. We're not trying to make this worse. We're trying to have an open dialogue conversation and be candid at the same time. So, if we say something inaccurate, that's a big ahead of time apology, but
but if we just say something that makes you feel a certain way, like, you can feel that way, like, my personal opinion about things is you kind of are responsible for your own nervous system. You're responsible for your own emotions. Like, if something somebody says and they're speaking their truth triggers a reaction in you, an emotional reaction in you, you're responsible for your own emotions.
yeah,
Like, people can, like, if you hurt
right.
somebody's feelings, it's totally best often to
Yeah.
apologize.
Well,
But,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. If and I'm not saying come to us if you have a feeling, but if we were inaccurate about something,
yeah, that's fair.
if there's a fact, a logical fact that's incorrect, that's hit us up. But if you got feelings, I don't want to hear it. I'm an Aries.
Yeah.
I don't have time. I don't have time for
Um,
that.
so yeah, I mean, so in
Cancel
general.
culture. Yeah, cancel
Yeah,
culture is
let's
why I really wanted to have this conversation. I don't think it's gonna be behaving the same way. I think we've talked about this before in previous podcasts. My That's what I wanna focus on is the societal immediate bad guy thing when it and a lot of times, not saying particularly now, but a lot of times when a figurehead okay, almost everybody good gets canceled, has gotten canceled, has
yeah.
tried to get say like, there's a lot of people pointing fingers at like, for example, Leo Skepi said something about fat people being unhealthy and how brands should go ahead and have whatever size they wanna have. If they don't make a plus size, that's fine. It's their brand decision, and I don't disagree. As somebody who used to be formerly obese, I don't see something in that to be upset about. Of course, it might have been his delivery, I don't know, because he says "fuck" a lot,
Yeah.
but that's a great example of cancel culture getting out of control, and he's still on top. He's still doing his thing. He's still got 10,000,000 followers, like, so I'm
Well,
not s
I mean,
it's
that is the thing about cancel culture often. When you try to cancel somebody, um, there's always gonna be a reactionary wave against it.
yeah.
And often people will it kind of incentivizes people to say the cancelable thing to a certain extent. You know, it incentivizes
Publicity.
comedians to
Yeah.
push the edge a little bit more than they used to. This has been happening a lot lately, where comedians push the edge a little bit more than they used to because honestly, the kerfuffle, whatever the kerfuffle is, tends to draw more eyeballs and tends to tribalize people, which is unfortunate, but that's gonna be a part of Uranus and Gemini where people are caught up in polarities. But
Yeah.
like, a lot of people, like, cancel culture has lost a lot of the squeeze from
Yeah.
the juice. Um,
Because
and
there's a certain amount of delusional aspects to that came from the Neptune and Pisces thing.
yeah.
And
I
the
mean, that
rigidity of Saturn in Pisces as well, very much it's giving what's the like an inquisition. That's the word.
yeah.
It's yeah, so
Well, it's like, there's a lot of correlations. I mean, there's, like, Star Chamber, like, which is like you've there's the Inquisition, there's Spanish Inquisition, there's, like,
yeah.
self-critting in China. I forget exactly when that was happening, but it was like there was this time in China, where basically, it was the Cultural Revolution, and there was this time in China where basically anybody that Mao was trying to consolidate power and anybody that was not following the little red book of Mao far
Mm,
enough was actually, that resulted in a lot of people getting killed, a lot of people being like stripped of any kind of position of power. It gave the youth a ton of power, which basically is what Mao wanted because he wanted the youth to like basically be his foot soldiers to implement more power for himself. Um,
mm.
so it's interesting. Like I'm not calling people commies in this either. I'm not saying, but there's like parallels. I mean, if you think
They
about the
I'm sure they
Inquisition or witch
exist.
burnings, that's a little bit more conservative cancel culture. You know what I'm saying? Like witch burnings were pretty conservative cancel culture. There's tons of points in history where the ugliest parts of humanity have come out, and almost every time the people that ugly came out of thought that they were the righteous ones. And I think that that's you see sometimes the ugly underneath the self-righteousness or the projection of it's because I'm a good person, you know? And many of them they're not actually kind or good people. Neptune and Pisces taught people to a certain extent that you can weaponize your own victimhood wherever you are on the progressive stack. You can weaponize that to help elevate your voice and elevate your power, but anything that's based that in victimhood eventually doesn't fucking work as well. It's true. It sucks, but it's true. It's not a good position of long-term power. It's a good position for short-term power when the culture
Yeah.
works with you.
It never, I mean, there's books written about this shit. Like every time, even the Art of War, 48 Laws of Power, it never says, victimhood is the way ever. It's very unstable and predictable and does not last long. Ev- Eventually everything tumbles and there's nothing to stand on anymore. And your true victimhood will always shine. You will manifest worse.
Yeah.
So, I think we're about well, there's a lot of people out there who love to get angry. They're addicted to getting angry. They're
Oh, for
addicted to
sure.
indignancy. They're addicted to pointing the finger and getting on a bandwagon. And it's everything to them to get on TikTok and hit the next trend in angry pants and
Yes.
do investigations and dox people and whatever the fuck they want to do. And it's a big deal, especially if you're an influencer and you start to get big numbers that you'll actually start getting threatening messages if you're not doing things a certain way. And, so there's the whole dark underbelly where, even influencers are dying in weird ways. And there's a lot of undercurrent about that, about how, um, cancel culture can go way too deep. It can get way too personal. And the internet can be a really fucking scary place,
Hmm.
terrifying place. So I do want to, be very sensitive to this entire topic in that um I work with a lot of people of different races
Hmm.
on through spiritual work. My skin looks the way it does largely because of shea butter coming from Africa and listening to my multicultural women and their skincare tips. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for them, for real, for real. Like I wouldn't look like this without the tips all growing up. My my mother from the age of 11 to the age of around 14 or 15, she took me to this church called Kansas Avenue.
Hmm.
And grew up Seventh day Adventist. So it's Kansas Avenue Church. And it was the same church that Little Richard's mother went to before she died. And when he, I guess, decided to stop being a singer briefly in the 70s and 80s, he became a pastor and he would preach there.
Cool.
And it was a very black church, very, very black church. Like I'm talking mac and cheese, like cookout food for potluck. It was so good, like singing, everything. And I grew up in that around that culture. And but then I would go home, and my grandmother I would hang out with her at home. And I'm not going to tell the story in the same way she told it. But like one time I was stealing some of my grandpa's licorice, and she had this mischievous grin on her face, and she said, "You know what we used to call those growing up?" And she said blank toes. And I was like, "What?"
Hmm.
And so use your imagination. It's the same word that
Black
the whole
licorice. Yeah, I know it.
yeah,
It's
it
what got
was.
Forrest in trouble. Yeah.
So she grew up in Georgia and South Carolina, excuse me. And to her, those words were amusing and naughty. And a whole generation grew up. She was born in 1926, so she would
Hmm.
have been 100 years old this year. So she was of a yes, of a completely different generation. They had minstrels back then. The culture was jokey, jokey, sing-songy, funny, weird, like the art was strange, the whole concept was weird, and that's I could see it in her face, but it hurt my heart because like that's not where I was coming from, and it was not a caricature for me and my generation, and it was for her. So it was very sensitive to me to hear it be tossed around. But there's people that will toss that word around really really easily, and that's even though I listen to a lot of rap, a lot of R&B, a lot of hip hop. I will never. I'm not that person. Not that person. So I can't again put myself in his position where it just slipped out. But I think in terms of speaking to people from New Orleans and Louisiana and the deep South places, there's a beautiful mix of culture where people will make fun of the racist stuff, and it's okay because they're all family.
Mhm.
So I think there's something of value when people can come to understanding and still shit post about it, or whatever it's called when it's face to face.
Shit posting face to face.
It's
Creating,
like
conflict. I don't know, being
just
contentious
it's
sometimes.
just contentious, but not maliciously. It's with the whole point of causing. I don't know if that should be funny because it's right on the edge, man. That is so bad. Oh my, like, but it catches you, and most things are funny because it's bad and good at the same time. It was so ribald that it just caught you by surprise, and that's what a laugh generally is the surprise. So I
I
think
mean,
there's a really fine line. It needs to be done with respect.
yeah. Well, I mean, comedians have a little bit of a ability to get away with more. And they're the ones that, like, generally push the edges of what's acceptable in culture. Um, and things change over time too. Like, the way that
There was
I
a
grew up.
lot of yeah, a lot of comedians in the '70s used that word.
Yeah. Yeah, it used to be pretty normal. It was normalized. I mean, I think they were talking about Blazing Saddles, which was an old Mel Brooks film, which, I mean, that's a Jewish producer of a film, created, like, a movie, put a lot of what was
That was
considered
a
racial
very
humor
racial
at the
movie. That
time.
was a very
Yeah,
racial
it was
movie. Yeah,
incredibly. I mean, it was an
undeniably.
incredible racial movie. I remember watching that when I was young. My parents were really they felt like, they kind of felt like, being like, saying those words were like a sign of kind of lower class,
Yeah.
mentality. So it was never really a part of the dinner table conversation in our house, but I grew up in Bellingham, Washington. It was like a 90 when I was growing up, it was probably 92% Caucasian, European ancestry, whatever you wanna call it.
Lots of Russians
Um,
up there.
well, not so much. There's a lot of Russians in Seattle, but there was less Russians in Bellingham for sure. Bellingham was more of a
Okay.
German,
Mm.
Norwegian town, at
Oh,
least because it was, all the people that came
yeah.
in for logging. The biggest, I guess the minority in that area was the actual natives that, still lived there. Not in all the lands that they used to have, but it was the Lummi tribe. And it was much more likely when I was young to hear, negative, uh, w
Pejoratives.
negative, words about, Native Americans than it was to hear negative words about African Americans or Black people. Just was. And I didn't even realize kind of that history when I was really young because it was taught, like, so you kinda knew, oh, we had Civil War, Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves, you got kind of the broad picture, but it was not part of the culture where I was growing up. So, I wasn't hearing it from anybody besides my generally really white teachers, right? So, it was, like, not really part of
It
the
was,
conversation.
it became part of a conversation when I read Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer as well as a child.
Yeah, I do remember
Yeah.
reading those, and I do remember, like, you see it. I mean, it's not like it was outside of the culture. I mean, even us whiteys up in the Northwest. I mean, when I was in middle school, we were listening to Tupac, and we thought we were identified with the West Side. Like, so we were hearing the word. I mean, it's not like it was not
Right.
inside the culture, and it wasn't like the culture, wasn't influencing, but it wasn't people didn't know it. Um, I remember, like, so when I was in high school, there was maybe 4 Black people in my school, and I ended up going to, like, homecoming with one of them. Her name was Nura, and she was, one of the first people that I really dated. I was kinda getting into the swing of being a Libra in my youth, and I didn't really put any thought into it. I just liked her, so I was like, "Oh, I'll ask her out," so I asked her out, and we were into it, and I ended up, like, meeting her mom. Her mom and her grandma lived there. Um, her grandma was, like, old, like, from the South, like, really old, but her mom was, like had been in LA and had been in, like, the movie industry for a little while, and they moved up to Bellingham after it. And, yeah, she was fucking really cool. It didn't end up working out for us, but I had, like, I mean, I remember, like, there's a song called Black Hole Sun, and it came out and I just wanna know, like, people will watch this and they'll be like, "Well, that doesn't prove anything," and I get it, it doesn't prove anything. I'm just saying, like, this happened. This was a part of my life. We would They lived in this apartment complex at first, and there was this common room, and we'd go to the common room, and when nobody was around, we'd make out, on this couch. And I remember, like, Black Hole Sun, like, because the Soundgarden, album, Super Unknown, came out, and Black Hole Sun was always on MTV. That's when MTV used to play videos.
I
Ladies
missed
and
that.
gentlemen,
That was
MTV
fun.
used to play videos. It was crazy. And, like, I remember some pushback from some of the kids at school about it, but most people didn't give a fuck. I mean, it was not like there are different areas of the country where, it's more of an issue. I My grandma was confused. She came from North Dakota out to Washington. So, like, when I brought my girlfriend, Nura, to meet, sorry for saying your name, I hope that this doesn't get back to you. Um, when I brought my girlfriend out to
Jesus.
meet my grandma was like, she's from North Dakota. She lived, through the Depression, moved from North Dakota to Washington. She really hadn't had any experience with it, so she was, like, surprised, but she was super loving and nice, and it was good. She said some weird shit afterwards, when,
Yeah, the
just to me, but it wasn't even like it was just, like, really, honestly ignorant. And to a certain extent, I had ignorance of it too, but, being an Aries rising, I didn't care, it was like, "Fuck it," So it's like, and I learned, like, I mean, her mom made the fucking best ribs I've ever had in my life, and I still, like, dream about those ribs, and it's like, it's how it is, it was like I had never had ribs like that, we always had kind of boring ribs whenever we had them. They weren't very good. They had, like, A1 steak sauce and, like, a little bit of a tangy on them. So my mom didn't make bad ribs, but she did not make the ribs to the level of almost total perfection that Nura's mom did. So, you know. So it's like then I went to
yeah.
Portland. Portland is still like, I lived in Portland for 20 years. Portland, the West Coast, Oregon especially, has, like, this long racist history, right? Like, it was like a state that they tried to make it so black people couldn't even come to that state for, like, quite some time, and it was still on the law books. Like, it was like an unenforced law, but there was still some of that on the law books, and I remember when I was in Portland, people were trying to get all those old laws that treated black and white people as separate, or, black people as inferior, off the books. And, I was supportive of that, like, of course, why wouldn't you? Um, but they also had redlining in Portland, so it was like whole neighborhoods were set up. And I actually lived through a really crazy time in Portland because all these new people were moving into Portland, and these traditional black neighborhoods that were traditional black neighborhoods, because it used to be the only place that they were allowed to basically live in Portland, were getting bought out by kind of the artist bohemian progressive class, and the prices were going up, and they were getting kicked further and further east. Like, the poorer black people in Portland were getting kicked further and further east because of gentrification, I believe is what they call it. And eventually Alberta Street, which used to be like a traditionally, like, super African American part of Portland became like where they had the Alberta Street Fair, which is basically a hippie fair, you know? Um, so you see the real impacts of decisions, but the people that were moving in there thought that they were, oh, they're bringing, they thought they were bringing diversity to what was a very strong, segregated neighborhood, and it was segregated, but because of that segregation, there had been this really strong culture that had developed in the community. So it's like there is a lot of shit that goes down. I'm not like blind to any of our history. I think that that's like one of the things that people will kind of create cardboard cutouts of people based on how they look. And I think that that tends to be pretty bad no matter who's making the cardboard cutouts. And yeah, it's
Yeah. I
interesting.
mean,
So yeah.
it's there's things that we'll never understand as far as cultural aspects of what it's like to live that, in this society.
Mhm.
There's just things that you and I'll never understand.
Of course.
So, that's the thing that makes me really not wanna talk about it, but I think it's important that people of our color do talk about it, because how else are we going to, like, be an ally if we don't ever talk about it? So, I think an ally both towards cancelization and an ally to, like, y the whole I don't even, don't know if what folks like to be called. I hear they don't wanna be called African Americans, I hear they don't like being called Black. It paralyzes me, I don't know, but I want that community, brown brown-skinned folks that I do love and appreciate. I just I don't know what to call y'all, because some people there's certain factions, I see it on TikTok, like, I see a lot of people saying, "I don't wanna be called this, I don't wanna be called that," so I don't know what to call folks, but I do have respect, but so
Well,
not
that's an
not
important
and also,
hey,
I wanna
the community is
have an
not a
open
monolith
conversation.
either, you
No.
know? And I think it's really important to
No.
remember that. It's like I think sometimes we project onto the community that there's this monolith and like maybe some people like to be called one thing and some people like to be called the other. So you like literally cannot
You can't open your mouth
perfectly
without saying
yeah,
something that somebody else is gonna disagree with.
that's okay. And people are
So but
allowed to disagree. It's okay. It's
that's
okay.
why we're still having this conversation in spite of all of that that a little scared, a little nervous, but I have a lot of quality Black people in my life. They're so smart, and I wouldn't be able to have this influence in my life without them. Like, there's I check in with them. There's some of my best family. So, like, I will say, like, the issue in this case, again, I do feel like he could have chosen a different word. But I think that cancel culture at large affects everybody, not just one race, not just one subsect, not just one thing. And I also want to focus on that too as well. Respectfully, both things as much as possible. Like, I really truly feel like we are headed a different direction. Of course, I feel like we should be calling each other on our bullshit. That's love to me.
Yeah.
That's true love to me, is when we can look at each other and be like, "That's fucked up, dude." And, like, even as friends, I want that in my life. So I think this conversation's really good and we should have it, but I don't think we're going to be handling it the way we have been with the Piscean, Neptune, and Saturn heaviness. We have an advancement in thought with this Uranus in Gemini. We're going to be having two conversations at once, on top of this Pluto Aquarius thing where culture is re-identifying itself and recalibrating. So, even with the Neptune and Saturn retrograde in Aries right now, there's still things we're going back over, why, and asking why, and seeing things in hindsight better. So this is very valid to be having.
Well, Pluto, I think, is retrograde right now too, and I'm pretty sure Saturn
Really?
is too. I'm pretty sure Saturn is, or it's really
Mhm.
close. Not absolutely sure. I think it is.
I think
It's
it
been a
is. I think yeah, I think they both
So I
the
think we're
ones in
in
Aries are,
kind
but
of
I
a
did not
big
know about
outer
Pluto.
planet
Mm.
retrograde period. I'm pretty sure Uranus is still direct. I'm
So
pretty
this is
sure
a
that's the
really
only
good time
outer.
to peel
Go
back
back over.
layers.
Not
Yeah.
only that, but it's also Moon is void in Virgo. It's a good time to be a little bit critical of ourselves, of each
Gotta
other,
get that
of maybe the way that
magnifying
we
glass.
do kind of deal with things because everybody, I mean, you shouldn't have to walk on eggshells to have like
No.
an honest conversation. You shouldn't have to. Like,
I want
yeah,
yeah,
you can
I
say
want the
shit that's gonna
conversations to
be
be more direct. I'm tired
yeah.
of having to do da 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 before I can get to the point, but I feel like I have to because I want to be understood correctly as somebody who wants to handle this situation with respect. So I've repeated myself several times on points just so I won't be misunderstood. I'm a Mercury retrograde person, and being misunderstood cuts me to the bone. I don't like it. But,
I'm less concerned about it, but I understand. I understand other people being concerned about that.
I'm working on it, okay? I'm working on
Yeah.
it.
I
That's
mean,
part of what your group is good for.
people are gonna project on you pretty
They
much
will.
whatever they want to. They can call you whatever name that they want to. If the names, sometimes the names stick, sometimes the labels stick, sometimes you act to the point where, yeah, that label is a good label for you, sometimes your actual behavior makes the case for you. I've always kind of lived in the shitposting world. Like, so I've always kind of lived on the edges of things. I typically make fun of pretty much any fixed belief, you know? It can be pretty much any fixed belief because that's the other thing about Uranus and Gemini that's kind of fun is because you can find something that's funny on one pole and something that's funny on one pole. You can poke at the bullshit of either side of any polarity because there's always bullshit on each sides of the polarity. This is like the main Libra thing is to like see the polarity, see what one side is doing well, see if you can balance those two polarities some fucking way. And it's difficult. Like sometimes the polarities are like they're radioactive, you're definitely going to get burned. So you have to have like a certain amount of yeah, I'm willing to get burned a little bit. I'm willing to step into the fire a little bit and I think that
Eh,
that connects to the Neptune and Aries, and it also Jupiter and Leo helps that. You stepping into the fire and being willing to get burnt, being willing to take reputational damage for your ability to say the shit that you want to say. I mean, that's pretty. It's
m
fine.
more or less, it's like opening up to heartbreak because
Yeah,
you're falling in love, you know?
yeah.
Like, you have to open yourself up in order to have some sort of community, some sort of exchange that's honest.
Mm,
So, what are we pretending to be perfect? Because that's bullshit. Everybody knows that's fucking not true.
Well,
So
mhm. This has been like one of my main points for a really long time. Every single individual has their own share of the shadow. Whatever you don't accept as your share of the shadow, you'll project out on others, And that's
yeah.
like just the case. Like we're not none of us are saints. Very few of us are monsters. Maybe Alex Karp, running Palantir kind of feels like, maybe probably lose your soul. You can probably sell it for like
Mm,
temporal power or something like that. I'm not exactly sure how it works. I've never really looked into that too far, but I'm sure it's possible. So it is possible to be a monster on this earth. It is possible to be really damaging to people on this earth. I tend to think like when we die, we get to experience all the harm we did to other people from their perspective and all the good things we did to other people from their perspective. So I think it does all balance out in the end. I mean, you do have to experience what you did to other people. And that's a belief, but it's like one of those, it's pretty resonant, makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of different traditions that kind of believe that. So, yeah.
is it about again, and You'll listen to any relationship coach and they'll say, "Don't listen to their words, listen to their actions." But all of a
That's true.
sudden,
Yeah.
if somebody has a slip of the tongue,
Yeah. Well, then 20
it
years or 50
oh,
years or however
oh,
many years, you know?
all of their
Like,
actions are down the toilet because they
eh
said something fucked up.
well, it's like who controls this is important because a lot of this whole Stephen Forrest thing, it's not just about the word, it's also about power. It is absolutely about power. And, like, who has it, who can enforce it, how they can enforce it, what is the path to repair, who controls what the path to repair is, who decides when when who decides when an apology is enough or sincere. Because what I've been seeing a lot on
Right,
the internet is
right.
people being like, "It wasn't sincere." Well, what the fuck? Did you have a sincerity meter? I mean, what's his
Beep, beep, boop, beep, boop,
sincerity
boop.
social credit score? Like, I don't fucking know, you know? I don't understand that shit. It doesn't make any sense. It's like somebody can apologize and people can be like, "Well, that apology wasn't good enough." So what?
Right.
That's why I
Do
wrote
it
the
again.
song because I was
Do
like,
it
"Don't,"
again.
I was like, "Don't grovel. You don't grovel. Like, stand up straight, say, yeah, I fucked up,
Right before we logged
deal
into
with it."
this, it was 9 minutes old, when I saw it, but Stephen Forrest made another apology video. So,
Oh, right before this, he's going
yeah,
tripling
yeah, it
down.
was I was, running to the bathroom and trying to go back and forth in between and just to get on here and do this, but I thought I should tell you that he's doing his best and, like, I think he still doesn't understand why that word is so incendiary, and, that
He is
part
like
is
he's a boomer. I mean, he is like the very older generation. He's
there's
Pluto
something
and
about it
Leo.
that's not, like, fully settled in his spirit that he had a phrasing, about it that, caught my eye, but I think he really again, I'll be are we paying attention to people's actions or words or foibles, like,
Hmm.
how if a verbal mistake was made, why isn't a verbal apology good enough?
I
What do
mean,
we
and
need to do?
I mean, okay, so I'll get into this really quickly. Yeah, people do sometimes do non-apologies, you know? There is like, "I'm sorry you felt bad," you know? "I'm sorry that," like, there's, like,
Yeah,
certain
that one
ways that you
sucks.
can, like I'm a Libra, I know all the non-apology apologies. I know them. I know them. I love them. I use them when I need to, when I don't really feel sorry, you know? Um, but yeah, ultimately, what many people and kind of the progressive sphere say is that we need to have more unguarded, open, and honest conversations about race in America. This is like what legitimately people are asking to have, right? If you're asking people to do that and then somebody does it and they're not graceful in doing it and they're punished immediately for doing it, is that what you really want? Or do you actually not want that? Do you actually want to have very specific rules about what people can say? You don't actually want to have a conversation. You want to control the discourse, like what can be talked
Right.
about, what can actually be said. That
I
is not how honest conversation happens. It's
Is
just
a
not.
script the only thing they want anymore? Do they oh, do they do is
Yeah.
it only gonna be satisfying if they come off like a newscaster?
I don't know.
I
It's
don't
power. Like
understand.
definitely, it's power that's underneath this. There is an opportunity. I mean, not definitely, but there's an opportunity for basically, people to consolidate power and to consolidate the terms of what is
Okay,
allowed.
I but
It's true.
is it just at making an example of him, or does Stephen Forrest have an amazing amount of leverage in this community?
He's one of the most known astrologers in the country. And there's also like this underlying kind of animus towards boomers or Pluto and Leo
Yeah.
generation people. This is part of the culture right now too. which, you can kinda understand,
They're kinda like
but
that,
they did
though.
not actually
You know
send
what I mean?
it was the corporate elite that sent all of our factories overseas. Do you understand? It wasn't the boomers that did that. They just
Right.
weren't paying that much attention.
Yeah.
They're paying attention to the wrong things right now. A lot of them are watching, like, MSNBC if they're on the left or, like, Fox News if they're on the right, and they're both equally misinformed from different sides of the polarization. But that's like a corporate actually instigated polarization. So, yeah, a lot of people are salty about the boomers, feel that they're out of touch, feel like they fucking ruined the country, right? Like, but the reality is, each generation has their I kinda think in terms of Pluto generations, each generation has their benefit and drawback, like each one of them do. Pluto and Scorpio has
Yeah.
just as many, problems as Pluto and Leo from my perspective. I do kinda like Pluto and Sag a lot.
I do. I
I
do
do.
too.
I
They're
j I
cool.
just kinda like them. They're
They're
kind of
great.
they're the different R word, like the other one that you're not supposed to say a little bit sometimes, and it's okay. We still love them. They are a little bit, I mean, they are, but, they're
Uh,
very their energy is really good, but they're split in this crazy way. They're actually split politically in one of the most powerful ways, and it's almost all, like, gender-based. So
yeah.
you've got, like, the boys of the Zoomer generation are, like, you know, they're, like, probably more
Soft.
right wing than their
Soft wing.
grandparents, than their grandfathers were,
Yeah.
They and then the women of the Zoomer generation are like, they're like, "Yes, we need all, democratic socialists in power, let's do it." Uh, wait, it's the only way to right the ship. So it's like, it's crazy. And totally, somebody just said, "Agree, they're
Yeah.
split. Boys red, girls left." It's true. I mean, it's true, but also most of the youth is like, well, the Republicans are no longer the vehicle. So if all of the young men are like, Republicans are not the vehicle for our, where we want to go anymore, what happens now? You don't really want a bunch of disempowered young men in a time of great and sudden change, which is kind of what we're moving
Right.
into.
And I think this
So,
again, we are dealing with some planned obsolescence in a lot of this, and, like, there's reasons why things are teetering on an edge.
well, yeah, there's a lot of reasons why, yeah. But like, I don't think, like, in general, Pluto and Leo really knows what's going on in, like, with the youth. I
No.
think that they're like, "They just need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps," it's like that kinda shit, and that's, like, been,
Yeah.
the old have always moaned about the young. It's just the way it is. But I'd
Yeah,
say
yeah.
Pluto and Scorpio is the most captured by kind of progressive, like, green meme ideology, like, that's, like, the fucking they're the most captured because I worked with them a lot. They were, like, the people that I ran canvases with. I trained a bunch of little progressives to go out and raise money, so I had to make them really persuasive on those issues. Not me, but I helped to develop that
Y
in themselves.
you helped to increase their speech craft.
I did, yeah. I was like, they were leveling up in Skyrim, like, they got to speech, 70, some of them to speech 100, like,
You're like one of
wonderful.
those, like, teachers out in the field where they can just go and give you some coin and you just up their XP.
Yeah, you give me some coin, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll give you 5 more levels of that, no problem, just give me a little bit of
Gotcha.
money. I'll even buy
Just
you
talk like
pizza if you guys
this.
do all right."
Influence them this way, yeah.
So, like, when I complain about progressive shit, which I do pretty often, it's because I really did work in the motherfucking trenches for, like, fucking 12, 13 years. I worked for Greenpeace, I worked for the Oregon State Public Interest Research Group, I worked for the Sierra Club, I worked for fucking Southern Utah Wilderness Alliance, I worked for the Working Families Party. I, like, trained, like, over 1,000 canvassers to go out there and, like, spread the good word, spread the progressive gospel, and you know what happened that really turned me off was Occupy. Occupy happened during,
Mm,
Obama,
mhm.
and Occupy started as like a class-based thing, right? It was like the
Right.
1% versus the 99%. And it was like really unified. It was kind of beautiful. It was like how it started was beautiful.
Right,
And
it
what
was
ended
at
up
first.
happening is these interesting people started getting introduced and they started introducing these ideas. We need to have a progressive stack so that we make sure that the voices that need to be heard that don't tend to get heard are being heard. And you know what it did? It created like huge wedge issues where everybody was not focused on like the actual thing that we were fighting for. Everybody was focused on like their tribal feelings about it. And you cannot convince me that, that wasn't that some of those people that were sent in to occupy were not sent in by
Yeah.
the 1%.
Oh, yeah.
It's trained ops. Like it's been happening all through US history when any kind of movement has any kind of power, it gets infiltrated to break it apart from the inside. And that's just the reality of the US. It's divide and conquer. And that's where I saw it. That's where I saw like uh cancel culture and like victim culture being used to like gain power surreptitiously. And I saw it like destroy a movement that was probably the best chance that we had to move towards like a more fair, equitable system in the US. Probably that we'll have. I mean, we're towards the end of our empire, so it's probably the last one we'll see. We're gonna see different things, but yeah. I mean, they're installing the flock cameras all over the country, like I mean, we're becoming like a surveillance state. It's true. And like we're not paying attention to that. No, it is important that we fight on these culture war issues forever. I think that we should fight on culture war issues forever and not pay any attention to the fact that, there's a corporate surveillance state actually being implemented in our country right now.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
So, yeah, I mean, yeah, we
everybody
should
I know
talk
is
about
paying
it.
attention to that.
Let's
Everybody I
talk
know is
about it. Well, yeah, well, flock, people are like, "Oh, I
yeah,
don't like them."
uh,
We should cut them down. But like literally they're all over now. They're not in all neighborhoods, crazily enough, but they are all over right now.
yeah, I've noticed
Um,
that there's some not episodes, but, some neighborhoods where they don't seem to be I haven't seen any in my town, for instance, that I know of.
but again, you can't there is there's definitely divide and conquer that's happening, but there's also like there's gonna be polarization during Uranus and Gemini. Every time that Uranus has been in Gemini in American history, there's been polarization. The Revolutionary War was like the English versus the the people that wanted their own country, right? So it was like that was the first one. The Civil War was the North versus the South. The
Yeah,
time before the last one was like the Cold War, so it was the commies versus the capitalists. So what's this
it's
one gonna be? I hope it's not a race war. That'd be terrible. That'd be the worst thing that we could
it
possibly
would be
do. I hope
so
it's
easy. It would be so easy low-hanging fruit for them to create that circumstance, though.
I mean
There's
it's
a lot of issue I mean, by
yeah.
it's just something that gets the people going, and it baits them every single
It
time.
gets the people going. Yeah, that's true. And part of it is like we have these algorithms that keep reinforcing. Like if you start like say you see something where it's like, you know, like a fight on X or on TikTok or whatever, and it's a fight between like a white guy and a black guy, and like the black guy wins or the white guy wins, and then you're like, oh, I like that, like maybe you have a little bit, maybe we all have a little bit of tribal loyalty in us, maybe. So you click on that, and then suddenly there's more of that coming into your feed, and you start getting racialized content that's on one side of the divide.
It's
So it
funny.
puts you into this tribal thing, and with girls, it's probably different. It's probably like you click on the down with white supremacy or down with blood, whatever. You click on that, and that suddenly becomes the thing. And then you start seeing it everywhere because it's constantly in your feed. That's how the algorithm keeps us in like these gated communities so that we don't really think about the other side as people anymore, so that we're
Yeah,
easily divided.
it's
Straight up.
very much, easy to the divide, seems to be on my feed. It's because I don't click on political things. I don't really dabble, right? But what will come up is, especially lately, is women complaining about being called cis and
This.
not feeling like, male to female trans people are very supportive of the natural women. And
Oh,
that's
like,
something that I've been noticing that is coming up on my feed. I personally don't like the word cis either.
yeah.
I don't like being a birthing person either. But I think that whole thing is weird, and I don't, I think it's really weird when people say certain things, but that's the most, I think, edgy my feed gets
Yeah.
personally is
Well,
when it
that'll
when
get
it
you
comes
into
to
TERF
womanhood.
stuff if you follow it far enough.
So I try not to,
Yeah.
again, I don't express that in my work per se, but because I don't like focusing on things that have potential to divide.
Yeah.
I don't,
Well,
but I don't want to be stuck in the spiritual bypassing aspect where I don't talk about tough things at all either, and I don't want to be afraid to have a conversation like this.
yeah.
So
Well, I mean,
it matters.
how do you do it? You just have to do it and be like, let the
Yeah.
chips fall where they may. And like, because what's the worst that can fucking happen? Well, you can get kicked off the UAC, I guess, you know.
Well,
You
it's
could
a good thing I
you
was
could
never
lose your
on it.
speaking position. People could burn your books, I guess, like they did with JK Rowling's, like so if you go far enough down the cis stuff, right, you end up in like trans exclusive radical feminist territory, which totally an interesting rabbit hole.
Such a lot of words.
Absolutely. I have nothing in common with trans exclusive radical feminists. But one time I found their what is it? Their subreddit, and I was like, let's see what the top 100, threads on this are, and I read through it. And I understood like where their position was, what their position was. So I at least understood them on their own terms. I disagreed with a ton of it. Like, basically, it comes down to trans exclusive radical feminists believe that, like, trans women are literally men coming into their spaces, which they spent years and years working to make protective spaces for women and
Mm.
society, and they feel like it's dangerous. So it's like, it's kind of about safety and belonging, right? And I'm not saying that this is good. I'm not
It's
saying
just
that
more
this
to
is good,
fight
but it was
about.
good to understand it. It's good to understand where somebody is coming from. Most of
Yeah,
us
it's nice
talk
to know
past
what the
each other.
topics are. It's nice to know what the
Yeah.
topics are.
Or not just
Um,
what the topics are, but like why people think that way. If you don't understand why people think that way,
right.
you can't actually have a conversation. If you just think I'm right, everybody else is wrong,
You're in a
like
circle jerk.
you're in a circle jerk, you know? And you're not allowing, like, the actual fucking conversation to happen often because you're not seeing it as it is. Like, I'm gonna get heated for a second. That's my Aries rising coming out, I think. That's my me. I can rant for hours.
Well, I mean, that's the whole point of a podcast, isn't it?
Mhm, mhm.
That is the whole point. I mean, this is my 5th podcast. I also too like to run my mouth. It is a thing I do. Hecate's daughter said, "Get estranged by family is the worst," and I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know how to respond to that exactly because I think I estranged from them, not them estranging from me. You know what I'm saying? I called that one first. So, but yeah, that it doesn't feel good either way.
There's this crazy trend where a lot more people are, like, going no contact with their parents. Like, it's crazy. Like,
And
I
a
mean,
lot of them are the
not like,
Pluto and Leo generation.
it is, like, and they're upset about it, they're like, "What the fuck?" And I get it. I'd be like, "Oh, man, this is grandchildren time." But there's also, like, all these complaints that, like, Pluto and Leo grandparents are, like, not actually really up being a part of their kids' lives either, or their
No.
grandchildren's lives. And it's like, yeah, that's probably true in some cases, And it might
I
be
can validate
more
that.
it might be more for the Pluto and Leo generation because Pluto and Leo, it's Leo, right? So it's self-focused.
It is.
Um, right? I mean, and that's their like, Pluto and Leo doesn't see their shadow as well. That's a Leo problem where you're like, you're the light, so you can't see your shadow as well, you know? Like, Pluto and Scorpio maybe over-identifies with shadow, maybe a little bit too much, who knows, you know? Sure,
It's
not
hard to
sure.
say. You're Pluto Libra, so how am I gonna, I can't ask you how you perceive that. I guess I could, but you are pretty close to it. You got your Scorpio there, so
Yeah,
you might have an emotional attachment to that side yourself, and you might not
yeah.
be able to see it clearly. But I am Pluto Scorpio generation. It's opposite my Mars, and it shows. It shows bad or good.
You know,
A
it
South
shows.
Node as well. Yeah. It's just it's prevalent. It's very strong. It's a very strong spice in my chart, but it's in the
Yeah.
6th house. It's a daily thing. I need to tap into that energy every single day. So, it's this that's why I'm here, again, having this conversation because it's plugging into the depths of society, it's plugging into the things in society that aren't working and they're on their way out and they're shriveling on the vine. And so, what do you think in terms of social correction? Where are we going if cancellation is no longer the move?
Have the conversation. Actually, like, really have the conversation. Don't say, like,
Confrontation?
yeah, have the not just the conversation confrontation. Like, bring it out. Like, let's bring our shadows to the surface. Let's actually see them. You know? Let's actually realize what it means. I'm hearing I gotta look this up. Pluto Virgo, we just wanna make you stop drinking and eat protein. Yeah, Pluto and Virgo actually, like, I don't think of Pluto and Virgo people as, like, boomers. Even if they're in, like, the traditional boomer category, I feel like the Pluto and Virgo generation are, like, they're the ones that, like, are keeping the shit show running. They're, like, the people, like, that they're the generation behind the scenes that still knows how things work and how to keep this system running, so when they die, which hopefully is not anytime soon, uh I don't know. Who knows what's gonna happen? Because Pluto and Libra largely, like, just kind of, we went under
We
the
are not
radar.
boomers, my mom is.
Yeah, yeah. My
Does not
parents were
like that.
Pluto and Leo. I thought the
Yeah.
coolest thing about Pluto and Leo is they knew how to do shit. They were like they believed in kind of the work hard and you'll get ahead because that's actually what happened when they were younger, you know? So it was
Yeah.
like it actually happened. They were able to, buy houses, usually pretty young. They were able to start family generation, generally pretty young. This is like the big difference between them and Pluto and Sag. They're not able to start family generation. They're not able to buy houses. They're not able to have any stability in their life. And like, to be honest, a lot of my generation fucking did not, well, I'm like Pluto and Libra, but I'm really close to the millennial era. So it's like, I think it starts in 82 officially. That's when Pluto moved into Scorpio, so I'm, like, right on the edge of the millennials and the Generation X. I'm called, like, an exennial. So it's, like, this transitional period. I'm sure there's one of those between the boomers and Generation X too. But,
Probably.
yeah, um, yeah, Pluto Cancer, that's interesting. I mean, my
Oh god.
yeah, that's an interesting the Pluto and Gemini, my grandparents were 1919, I think. I think they were Pluto and Gemini, if I
I
remember
agree.
right.
I think my
Yeah.
grandparents were Pluto Gemini as well. Pluto Cancer sounds so, like, emotional, like, not just damage, but what's the word? Like,
This they're the war
hostage, emotional
generation.
hostage.
They went and fought for the homeland, right? And they all
Okay.
had to sacrifice. That whole generation had to sacrifice for the homeland at that
Ugh,
time, World War II. That's the World War II generation. Those
brutal.
mostly the people that were fighting in World War II. Um, yeah,
I gotta look
so
at my
there's
grandpa's
tons
chart
of
again.
emotional trauma from that. Like, people aren't actually really built to kill people in mass, you know? It's, like, kinda bad for our soul.
No.
Not really good. I mean, certain situations you can kill with joy in your heart, and it's fine, but it's rare that that is gonna be, if you're fighting for your some higher ideal, because your country drafted you and told you to. Um, so warrior culture and soldier culture are a lot different,
For
Um,
real.
you know. So anyway,
Dang.
where do we go next? Have we gotten heavy enough
Y
yet?
No, did you answer the question about what we're doing societally for instead of canceling? I can't remember if you answered that or not.
How about we just kind of work together against like the burgeoning surveillance state and recognize that it's going to fuck us all over no matter what our skin color is, and recognize that it is kind of
That's
it's not
right.
like it's not the rich versus the poor, but it is definitely the oligarchs,
Yeah,
like because normal rich people are
there's a
fine
better
with it.
enemy to have. Yeah.
Yeah, let's fight against the oligarchs. It's going to be fun. It'll be good. Be good.
I
That's
have
we need to like make sure that, you know, if we would like to keep a democracy in our country, for example, we can't allow like the corporate elite to write all of our laws. Just as a like a little aside.
I think
You
they have
know?
a little bit of vested interest in certain things, so maybe we should
Yeah.
have more checks and balances in that area,
Maybe.
might
I
be a
mean,
good idea.
I'm not totally sure that democracy is real right now, like for real. That's kind of how I feel
I'm
about
not
it.
sure anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not
I think
sure. I
it's
don't know
fine.
what's
It's like
real.
we have the veneer still, so people still believe in it. I think like giving the consent of the governed to the current system is foolish at this point. Like, but this is my own opinion, and I'm already on the Palantir list. So you should keep it to yourself if you don't want to get on those. You know, keep it to yourself.
Mm,
Yeah. But you got to talk
well,
about it. You got to start. We got to start talking about shit that's uncomfortable. Like,
yeah.
Americans are gonna have to give up fucking comfort. We're gonna have to give it up if we want change. Like you get two choices. You either get comfort or change, and we're not gonna have comfort, so we might as well start moving towards change.
I feel like it's easy to get angry over small things, and I'm not calling this Stephen Forrest thing small. I'm not calling that word small, but I'm talking about
In the
in
big picture, is it
general,
though?
big picture. It's
Maybe.
so, huh?
Is it though? Is it a little bit small in the big picture? Maybe.
Well,
Maybe.
it's not the
Is it at
largest
least
for
a
sure.
possibility that it's not like
There's survival at stake, and this is a fight that's very old, repetitious. And I think Kanye West had a lot to say on the matter that made a lot of sense to me. When he was ranting against how mental slavery continues, it's something people plug into. I think there's a certain level of that that's true for all of us, not just Black people, not just the culture, but that's not up to me to decide. That their handling of that trauma is how they handle that trauma, But I think Kanye had something to say in terms of, and a lot. I mean, in a lot of the global stuff. I think
well, if they try to cancel Kanye, it's kind of difficult to do because he's pretty
he's
good.
been trying to tell us this shit for years. He's been trying to talk about these hot button issues for years. I'm
Hmm.
thinking in particular of the rant that he did on TMZ, and they carted his ass out of there basically and put him in a mental hospital afterwards because,
Yeah.
like, he went off on all these hot button issues that is roiling underneath the Stephen Forrest issue. He's been talking about this cultural thing for a really, really, really long time. And so in terms of I think it is a thread in the big picture. And when you pull it, it becomes bigger and it could cause a huge division, right? So that it's
It
not
did
necessarily is
cause
it
it.
itself
It is a division.
it in and of itself is not a large thing, but it is attached to things that are much larger.
Yes, of course.
So, um,
It's
in
it's
that
not
respect,
actually
it's not small.
It's not small because it's gonna have an impact on the astrological world, or at least the ones that are paying attention to this, right?
But
Which
it's
is
also
like
a macrocosm.
yeah.
It's just one example of many people going through this, and it's not just people in the astrological community. There's somebody that's a contractor that just does concrete and made a similar mistake, and he's getting canceled right now, or an influencer, or da 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 da. Da, you know what I mean? So
You can
where
only
when
cancel
is
as much as you can wield the power to cancel somebody, though. So,
it's and it's yeah, yeah.
my sense is Stephen Forrest, actually, if you really look at how different people responded to this and, like, how I would say that the main energy of most of the people that interacted with it was actually supportive of Stephen and was, like, kind of upset
Mainly,
about the
yes.
UAC
Yeah, I agree.
choice. So I'd
Largely.
say that, like, so if you're the ones that are supposed to be the ones that are exerting the power, and most of your constituency thinks that you're exerting the power in the wrong way, who's really who wins that game? How well can they enforce it? Like, it's like, and what are they trying to enforce? Like,
That's a good question.
what do they need from him? For him to be welcome back into the community? And what does that
Right.
mean? What is the community? Like, is the community open to people from all different stripes that have all different ideas? Or is the community just people that believe this specific ideology? And this is like where I get into the
This is a good way
ideological
to find
aspect of it.
out. Yeah,
Yeah, we're gonna find out.
we're in the middle of hashing these terms out and seeing where people stand in this area because everything's in a point of division.
Mhm.
So I think we're about to have some different factions in astrology specifically, you
Yeah.
know.
I've picked my
Um
side already because I threw a broadside at it, so what are you gonna do? And I've
there's going
written
to
a
be
couple
new
things. I've
societies,
yeah,
new institutes, new forms of thought and more progression in this community, and that was inevitable. That was
yeah.
absolutely inevitable.
I mean, if you think about it, astrology shitposting only has always been outside of the normal institutions. It has. I mean, it's like made fun. It was never like never followed the like rules of anything. It doesn't follow the rules of like social niceties at all and hasn't ever. And it was created to be like as much free speech as you can get away with on Facebook. Like that's how it started. That was the original intent for it. And all that did was cause like tons of people to get polarized. Some people like washed out because they got polarized. Some people got mad and started their own groups. It was like the woke version of astrology shitposting only, which never works because the more that you're trying to police other people's thoughts and how
Right.
they think, the more that you're going to end up with this smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller circle because you end up turning on each other in that. Like we can have like unity. I can be like, you can easily have unity. All you have to do is like accept people as they are, call them out. If they're not willing to be called out, then you're like, well, like if you can't
You're
take being
exiled.
called out,
Get
it's
out.
fine. But I'm probably not going to hang out with you anymore. You're not
Yeah.
really. You're like a person that I'd kind of like if I saw him at the store, I'd avoid. It's like that's kind of the way that communities go. And there's going to be people that are, in different tribes in any community. There's going to be people that have. There's all humans love to divide. They
Yeah.
love to divide into their kind of tribal groups.
They
It's
wanna feel
super
extra
fun.
special.
Yeah, for sure. And your emotional reaction can sometimes allow you to be seen as extra special too. Like your perceived victim status can allow you to be seen as extra special. If this is illogical, let me know. But I think that was the big Neptune and Pisces thing, and it was
That's not
very
illogical. I
shitty.
mean, it correlates with the Neptune and Pisces thing as far as, like, you can just go back in history and see what the internet was doing the entire time. It's pretty obvious. Where we're at now is a I think I I think there's a lot of people that are gonna about to get their feelings hurt in terms of,
Yes.
like,
There's a lot of people that are gonna not
these
have
these
comfort
these
very good.
counselors that were talking about earlier in the chat, like, those are the people that are going to just get a very big sore, like, people that are the most finger pointing, the most judgmental, the least forgiving are going to have a very, very hard future.
Yeah. Well, it's like that's always been a thread in American culture as the Puritans. We have this puritanical influence in American culture,
Lakers.
and it has lived through our entire history, and it comes out, like, from the left, like, banning alcohol, the temperance
Yep.
movement was like that. Like, what did it create? It created a bunch of, like, gave us some cool organized crime movies,
Speakeasies.
ultimately.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hell
it was
yeah.
cool. I mean, it was
Dancing
fun,
and
jazz,
culture based
like, the
on that.
repression, like, creates something. You had, like, the Satanic Panic, you had, like, McCarthy, you've we've had the witch burnings, like, if you go further back into history, you have, like, Chairman Mao and the Little Red Book and the Cultural Revolution, you have the Inquisition, it's like repression, like, it's like that energy travels through history. It's a part of humanity, whether we like it or not. It's part of humanity. In the US, we have this very specific Puritan influence, and the Puritan influence is almost entirely pushed forward by like people that call themselves progressive, and open and pluralistic. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Everything is crazy right now. I
Yeah, it's
was just
crazy.
thinking about how on TikTok they're saying like being goth is political as well. Like that is
Huh.
no longer aesthetic, that is no longer about music, it is political. You have to be left to be goth. And I had never heard that in my life. In addition, there's all these
You have to be
practices.
left to be punk too, which is also not true historically. There's obviously not.
What?
Yeah, exactly. That's like, I mean, okay. Like, you can say it. Doesn't mean it's true. Like, that's the
It's
thing. You
just
can say something. You can say it with as
correct.
much power and strength
It's
as you
just a
want, but it doesn't
word.
have to be
It
true.
it's just people saying things is people saying things, and I think with this we have a lot more time with the Aries, Neptune, and Saturn and Aries. They're gonna do retrogrades and come back and forth, and before they're all the way gone out of this sign, but they're gonna be moving, on. They're gonna go into Taurus and Gemini, and we're gonna continue to evolve and find new ways to deal with things in society regardless, and I don't know. I'm not honestly totally scared of surveillance because they pretty much know everything anyway. They've been surveilling us a lot longer than the flock cameras have been around.
Well, I don't like it.
So,
Yeah, of
like,
course.
I don't like it. I don't necessarily like it, but we've been surveilled a lot longer than we've been paying attention
Yeah,
about.
there's Snowden and the NSA. There's all that
So
stuff.
it's
Yeah.
not going to change
Yeah.
that much. They're gonna
Well,
probably start grading systems and, like, a
social
little,
credit
social
basically is
credit
probably
type
coming.
thing.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I can see that being an issue, but I at the same time, if it's this is stuff has been talked about on Art Bell for 25 years, 30
Mhm.
years. I remember hearing it as a child on the air, so I don't feel surprised by any of that, you know, um it's just a matter of how are we gonna take responsibility going forward? How are we going to stop pointing fingers at somebody else doing something incorrectly and realize our actions are what really pads things out? It's
We
just
have to
words.
I think, like, the way that I kind of try to do things, and this creates enemies, is I try to just reflect back, what people are projecting, onto me. I try to, like, see why that is coming at me. I try to see if I can project back the shit that they might not see of themselves, because they might just go further and further in. This is always the danger of any kind of that work, mirror work kind of. This is a very 7th house thing, and it's something that I've kind of done all my life. You reflect somebody back accurately to themselves that they're not willing to accept that, they'll usually get in deeper loops. And this is why you get the closing circles, right? Because, like, if you can't see what you are, if you can't see the truth, you're gonna keep
It's
doubling
not
down
love. Like,
into
it's n y y
falsity, you know?
you've gotta be okay with disappointment and disruption sometimes. This again, back to the concept of the Tony Robbins thing. So, I'm not s again, not advocating for s you can do that without using the word. You can do that without using the word, but,
Yeah.
that wasn't the choice that got made, and now we're all sitting here having this great conversation, and I do think that has value and,
Well, there are people having conversations online too about whether there should be any forbidden words, you know, whether any word should be so taboo. Like, and I'm not saying that this is like a great conversation, but people are having these conversations. They're
I think George
happening in the
Carlin would have loved
margins.
that conversation. Like,
What?
I think George Carlin would have loved having that
Yeah.
conversation. He's a Gemini moon, and he loved words. He loved
Why even
talking about
why so much power to a word? You know, it's like the power
yeah.
that a word has is the power that's given to it to a certain extent. And we can talk about history, we can talk about all those things, you know, like we can get into it, but ultimately, the power that a word has is the power that is given by the people, you know?
See, Car
And it's
it's
like, for example, there was like this, oh god, like kids, like the Zoomers are kind of anti-Israel, like especially the men. This is a reality. Like
yeah.
people got to deal with it because of TikTok, because of whatever, you know. And they started calling like the food that they were getting, like they started like the kids are calling like the food that they're given in the cafeteria goy
Yeah.
slop. So
That
people got
came from
mad
the
about
Epstein
this.
files, right? Did
Yeah, it's
Wasn't that a
Epstein files.
byproduct
It's
of
a
that?
lot of things that go into it. But goy slop, goyim, you know, it's like kind of a slur, maybe not,
Yeah.
but it's kind of a slur, right? So it's like to a certain extent, the kids that are saying that are reclaiming a slur and using it, right? So like, and that's always been okay in our culture. It's true. Like if you're slurred against, you can call whatever slur is against you, you can use it yourself. You know, that's the way that slurs kind of work in the US. So it's kind of interesting. You know, it's like these things are happening in the world. People are having these conversations at the margins. The youth are having these conversations more. Um, like they might not be respectable conversations, but it's also, you know, you got like they're not, you know, like it's fine though.
They're not
Just
literate though
because they're not
either, so how are they
respectable.
gonna be respectable?
They're not. They can't afford a house. They're like fuck you,
Eh,
the whole society, right? Like fuck them. Um, so like people are gonna have conversations that are uncomfortable, and like people are gonna have to get used to discomfort, and that
mhm.
I think is the shift. I think that that is what's gonna replace cancel culture is discomfort.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's like we have to be able to sit in discomfort. We have to be able to regulate
I
our
like
own
that.
nervous systems. I think that that is like the ultimate thing is we've got to learn to not control our reactions, not pretend we're not reacting
Ugh,
to whatever's happening, but we have to like actually
feel
feel the
it,
thing, work through it, control our own nervous system regulation, and
dude.
not be like it's everybody else's fault that I can't regulate my nervous system. Like that was a very Neptune and Pisces thing. I think Neptune and Aries is about the new meta is nervous system regulation. That's going to be the new spiritual meta. I think that's what I've been
I
feeling
agree
and
with you
seeing.
because
Yeah.
I got a reading the other day from a beautiful woman named Osarunga.
Mhm.
One of my, I guess for constituents is a good word, colleagues. Um, so she gave me a reading the other day. It was a lot of channeled messages, but it was basically essentially all of that. Like she was telling me as a double Gemini with my moon opposite Saturn,
Mhm.
conjunct Chiron, that I need to feel and express my emotions instead of intellectualizing them.
Yeah.
Instead
That's
of
like a very
immediately
moon
moving
and
into
Gemini thing in
a
general.
yeah, I mean, but that's why my therapist loved me so much. That's why she
Yeah,
was
'cause
so entranced
you
with
can
me, is
talk it
because
out.
I was really good at coming to an arrival and solving my own problem right in front of her and being very self-aware, but I still have things I wanted to work on, and she was so dazzled by that. But anyway, so this it back to what was I saying about the Gemini thing? My god, I got all tragedy about the therapist thing. What were we introducing just now?
Nervous system regulation.
Yeah, okay, so she
That it's
told me,
your
yeah,
responsibility, that it's actually
it's
your
my
responsibility.
exact it's the fact that I'm not showing my emotions, it's not their fault. It's not anybody else's fault that my emotional needs don't get met, that I don't get seen the way even on the internet with the algorithm, like all of these things where I feel ignored, over my work or whatever, not getting reacted to, it has everything to do with how I acknowledge my own self first and how I feel first.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm learning. Like your wants are valid enough to base decisions on. You don't have to consider somebody else's needs first.
No.
Like, so that's a mind blower to me. It's taken me this long to figure that out.
Well, I
But
am a Libra, so I did a lot of people pleasing in my day, and
yeah,
the people are never pleased, especially because I
no,
have an Aries rising, and I eventually, like, will fuck up
this is
the pleasing
true.
process, you know?
That is one of the yeah, another thing I wanted to bring up in this topic is how many times they've been asking for these apologies and nobody seems to be ever pleased. And the canceling usually winds up ending up resolving itself because the person just moves on.
Yeah, they
The
just stop
person being canceled
reacting to it.
just stops reacting to it and continues on the work that they kept doing the whole time.
Yeah,
So no, it's about not accepting a diagnosis from society that is
yeah.
false.
Well, this is why you kind of I mean, it's not you can feel bad. You can apologize to people individually that
Yeah.
you know that you harmed, right? But never apologize to the mob, never do it. Like, it doesn't actually help you ever, and it's like, it will never help you, like, it's absolutely true. That's who you should never apologize to. You should absolutely if you wound somebody that you love, apologize to them, like, full-heartedly be like, "What do I need to do to make restitution for this with you? Because my
Important to me.
relationship with you
Yeah.
is important enough to me that I'm willing to put my pride to the side. I'm willing to do what I need to do so that you feel like this is repaired, so that this feels repaired between us." You can't do that with the collective.
Nope.
You can't. So, Steven's gonna learn that, it's true. He's gonna learn that you can't do that with the collective, it's gonna be a hard lesson. It's shadow work, though, and he's talking about shadow work all the time, so he gets to do some shadow work. I mean, it's, like, pretty cool, you know? It's
The
kinda
medicine
cool.
tastes awful, but it
It's like
works.
his it's almost like his master's thesis, you know? He's doing it this is like his I I I like the guy. I think, like, ultimately, he has a kind heart. I think he's like, he's a boomer, he's got, like, some of the boomer shit, and I'm not
Yeah.
disrespecting boomers. I wanna be really clear. I love you guys. I love you guys. There are some blind spots that
But
some of
I'm
y'all
I'm
have.
pretty sure that they're
You haven't seen
aware
how culture has changed, like, as
dealing
much.
with each other. I think when the Pluto Leo generation deals with each other, they understand why they get called boomers. I'm pretty fucking sure they're self-aware enough to know
Yeah. I
what's
mean
behind that.
I mean, it's certainly not all of you. So it's like the main complaint that I have is that you still believe the TV. I mean, that's like the main thing. Like, stop believing the fucking TV. Are you kidding me?
Also,
You
the
knew
hitting
it was bad at the beginning. And you're now like, "Oh,
for
no, but,
real.
Neil Caputo, fucking, this guy told me this thing on this news channel, and yeah, that's gotta be true." It's like it's I got in so I I met my Mormon, I was adopted very quickly. I'm gonna tell
Yeah.
this story really quick
Go
because
on.
it
Yeah.
totally relates. I was adopted, um, I was given up for adoption as an infant, at about 2016. I got a 23andMe thing and was able to find my birth mom and my birth dad. In a couple months ago, about a month ago, I went to my half brother's bachelor party, and I met I'd met my dad before, but I met 2 of my uncles. And one of my uncles was, like, deeply Fox News guy, and they're Mormon, so they're a little bit straight-laced. And we just got into it because I was drinking whiskey, and whenever I drink whiskey, I'm sorry, Pluto and Virgo, sometimes I drink whiskey. Whenever I drink whiskey, it's like truth telling. I will say the truth, my truth, and I'll say it with a lot of emotional intensity. So I got in this argument with my uncle Steven, and it was, like, pretty intense. What's going on? Is there something in the background? Do we need to close this out? My
No, my
phone's
dad
almost dead, so
well, do that. My dad just walked by and asked about the cat, so it
okay.
wasn't nothing important. It was just,
Yeah,
about the
it's all
cat.
good. So I guess I'll just close with this. I'm at Mutual Reception Astrology. I got in a big argument with my uncle, and my uncle and my dad were kinda like I was making good points. I was like piercing a little bit through the veil. So people can be talked to, even if they're set in their ways, even if, they come from a different place than you. You can still have a conversation with people. I am fully about having conversations with people, but I'm not about pretending to agree with people because I'm supposed to, because of some ideology. And I will never do that. I'm just not going to do that at all in my life
Mhm.
anymore.
Well, yeah.
I
I'm
used to do that when I was younger. I don't want to do that anymore. That's not who I am. That's not me being autonomous. That's not me being sovereign.
so how did it end
That's
with your uncle?
well, like I think he respected me a little bit more. I certainly don't think he realized that I was gonna be able to go 10 toes down with them. And it was cool, Like I think ultimately, like he's gonna be like, he'll probably grouse about it. He was kind of angry that the other uncle was like nodding to me more than him. So it was like, it's one of those things.
Eh,
One of those things. And it's
they'll
like,
live.
you know, it's Mormonism. I don't really know it because I wasn't brought up in it. So it's like, there's a lot of stuff with that I learned about, during that trip. But I also it was a bachelor
Hooray.
party and we none of them get to go in the temple, you know what I'm saying? Because they were drinking beers. So it was fun. It was fun. It was really fun.
That
This was
does
a
sound
great
like a good
time.
time.
This was a great time. Uh, if you want to, get mad at us at all, if you're watching this in the future, if you want to clip us, go ahead and clip us, but make sure that you tag Mutual Reception Astrology
Yeah.
and Sui Regenerous. Is that how does it go?
Sui
Gen-
generis regenerate.
It's so hard for me to remember the exact. It's so hard because it's
You
French.
know what? It's a yeah. I don't even speak French, but it means, a unique and standalone and like nothing else and always changing. So it was
Yeah,
just the most concise way I could create a brand, but been debating. I'd have to change so much, but I've been debating changing everything to my name, like my branding to my name, because it's easier to
yeah.
say. But
My
Sui Generis Regenerate, I have a school for helping people not just unlearn tarot, but increase their confidence in several areas of their life at the same time. And also help with content creation and authenticity and all of that stuff. So you can join. Right now it's $10 a month. So if you want to get on that, it's a pretty low sub. I got other people in there doing the thing, and it's exciting because people are actually having good breakthroughs, and I've taught several people in ASO through the same method, and they've had some really great experiences.
Josh is killing it right now.
So Josh is, I'm so proud of him.
He's
He
starting
was
to
going to
just
be the
build
one
up
I
his
wanted to talk
TikTok.
about.
He's
Josh
awesome.
is
I
just
love
took
I
off
love
like
his he has a way with words. He has a lot of
he
easy words for us
does.
people.
Yeah, and he
Um,
he he was saying that he never would have done this with the tarot if it weren't for this method and how much it's helped him. So if it I know it's helped the other people too, but Josh is the one that's the most vocal about it, and I appreciate that report. So he's
I
invited into my school as well, so he may or may not make an appearance at some point. But
we'll see.
yeah. Anyway, you're
Well,
invited. You were gonna say something, and I kept talking over you.
I
So
mean, you should definitely like subscribe. Become a paid subscriber to my Substack. You get
yeah.
15% off. any reports that I do. I'm a little bit lazy about reports, but I'm working on it. Uh, I'm gonna start doing video natal reports. I work a lot and I have a family and, I do
It's
this in
hard.
my off time. It's hard for me to put all the energy that I'd like to into it. But, the more that there's people supporting me out there in the world, like, even with, like, $8 a month, which is what the Substack is, first of all, you get access to everything that I write, which I don't actually put behind a paywall even for the people that, you know I think that it's important that I get the word out. I do a lot of big picture astrology. I talk about the big patterns, like when the planets have gone through before, like
That's
what the
good work.
echoes
It's good
of
work.
the planets are, and it's good work. So follow me, like repost my shit, like just repost it, like it, like
That would,
share it,
honestly,
comment.
if you followed either of us, does more than anything is help spread the word. Like,
Yes.
share, subscribe. Are you fucking kidding me? I appreciate that so fucking much. Like, in general,
Yep.
I'm not as prolific on Substack as I should be. Uh, Breaking my ankle kind of took me out. And when in
Yep.
terms of like my thought forms and way I'm forming sentences, not because I was on drugs, but because it was an experience and my body, I didn't realize there was a brain fog associated with broken bones. I had no idea.
You got to repair
But
it.
there's a lot
Yeah.
of physical work that goes into that I learned about. But I love your Substack. Your Substack is fire. And yeah, like but in general, if you follow either of us on any platform, that's the like makes my whole day when somebody likes, shares, or subscribes to my stuff. I pay attention. So
I do too.
it's good shit. Love you guys.
Signing off. It's a
Thank you for the
wrap.
conversation, Michael.
No
And I
problem.
hope everybody listened to this with the right spirit and we had a good conversation and nobody's feelings got hurt. But if somebody did, sorry.
If somebody is, I'm just gonna tell you that you're responsible for your own nervous system and you should work through it. And if you need to reach out and talk to me, I might not be the kindest in that moment or the nicest in that moment, but I will be kind. So that's it.
All
Goodbye.
right. Thanks.